one. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to an extremely mobile episode of the Project Egg Show. Today, unlike most episodes, we're in the flesh here with Jonathan Barshop, the co-founder of Be My Guest. Jonathan, how you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. It's a freaking beautiful day here in Metairie, New Orleans, so appreciate you having me.
Dude, I'm so glad that you came in town, and we're doing this live, people, so you're gonna see other friendly guests in the background there. But we decided to head on over to La Fernier Park here, beautiful park in New Orleans, and do the interview live, because why would we not do that? It's awesome.
Yeah.
So I decided to whip out the bucket hat, put on the sunglasses, meet this guy out here, and yeah, so let's jump right in. Jonathan, what is your story?
Yeah, so I am co-founder of a company called Be My Guest, which is a podcast PR and production company, and we help get founders, CEOs of primarily like software companies, but also public figures and stuff like that booked on podcasts, and then we also help brands produce internal and external podcasts. So it's kind of the shtick. And then my story, I guess, dates back to me and my co-founder connected literally just through a cold email one day. He was running a newsletter called The Podcast Wire, where he was creating 300 or 500 word summaries of 3 of the best podcasts of the week and sending them out every week. And so I just was like, this is awesome. I've been listening to like a bunch of podcasts at that time and was just like, hey, I'd love to help out. And that I said at that time, and was just like, hey, I'd love to help out. And that kind of like started a year-long side hustle between the two of us working on that.
Wow.
Rebranded it to a thing called startupmixtape.fm. And yeah, worked on that for about a year. And when I was like super freaking ready to leave my job, he asked me if I wanted to basically team up on Be My Guest, which he had kind of been building out at that time. And that's sort of the genesis of it. He's the absolute man. His name's Eric Jacobson, based in Columbus, Ohio. But it all kind of started with literally like a cold email.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing how something as small as a cold email, like that probably didn't take more than 2 minutes to write.
Yeah, well, you think that, but like I actually put a lot of like thought and, I'm pretty thoughtful with my emails. I don't usually just spam out, which
that's good.
People tend to do. So I think it came from like a genuine place, which is sort of how I approach almost all my relationships in general.
So let's talk about relationships. It seems like really the foundation here of the business is the relationship between the two of you. How did you go about really building that? Like what are the foundational building blocks of that relationship?
Man, it's so much of it comes down to just like me and Eric's. We just kind of have the same values, and like we both kind of like, I'm from San Antonio, he's from Cleveland, Ohio, and I think those are two very much like embedded in those two cultures are just very much like work hard and don't showboat and all those kind of things, and we just very much align in that respect. And so I think that's really the core of our relationship. But then it's also like to go to like carry segue into that, it's like just not having any ego, and we're both very open to each other's feedback. And I literally, over the 2+ years we've worked together, I don't think we butted heads once, and I think it just comes back to literally just not having any ego and being totally open with the communication style.
Wow, that's amazing. So let's talk about those values, because I think that is a really critical piece of not only your business, because your values, and let's get a look see this lake of here. Yeah. This little body of water. Seems to be a great. Oh, there's a fish jumping over there. Action time on the Project Egg Show. But let's talk about these core values, because in my opinion, the core values not only are that foundation of the relationship between the people behind the business, but it also permeates the business itself. So what are some of those core values that you really hold near and dear and that you make sure come through in your business?
Yeah, I think it's like, just like, kind of, I like to liken our work and, our work together sort of like the San Antonio Spurs, if you're a basketball fan, and Cleveland Cavaliers.
Fan. Just throwing that out
Which
there.
is a respectable team as well. No, but like, it's just like showing up every day and, just like putting in the work. And, I mean, yeah, I think it's pretty plain and simple. Like you hear the same sort of stuff over and over again. It's like consistency and all that same stuff, but it's like, there's just nothing more true than that. It's just being able to show up every day and really sort of like, I think Eric does this like tenfold, is just like leading from the front and setting that example for everyone else, because if he were to, slack in any capacity, then that trickles down the line. And yeah, like he shows up every single day, and as do I, and it's just kind of embedded in our culture, I feel like, of just like not cutting corners and showing up every day. It's pretty simple when you actually like, say it out loud, but
yeah,
harder done than said, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're thinking about the consistency and making sure to show up every day, like, what does that mean for you? Like, what does that actually look like? Take us behind the scenes into your actual life. Like, what does it really look like for you, being an entrepreneur, being a co-founder of this thriving business? Like, what does your day look like?
Yeah, I think like there's kind of a mixed signal, and it's getting better, but like, for the longest time, I feel like entrepreneurship and stuff was all about, like the hustle and all that stuff, like showing up at 5 a.m., waking up at 5 a.m., blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And I actually put a lot of stock into, like, I don't have like a super religious morning routine, but I definitely like to like tune up into my day. So I don't have an alarm. I wake up just kind of whenever, and that's usually pretty consistent if you do that for a long enough period of time. But
yeah,
I wake up at, let's just say 7, and like don't rush into the day. I kind of like ease into it, and I think that self-care piece is actually a huge component of that. But
definitely,
yeah, like, showing up at and just kind of you're already sort of like primed to like have a successful day in that respect, if you sort of put those initial sort of things in place. But yeah, like, I mean, I guess I just sort of try to get to the office, or like, get to the remote work area that I work out of at the same time every day, and not like, show up at 10 o'clock on sometimes. But I don't know, it's tough to say, because every day is a little bit different. But I think ultimately it's just the consistency of like, just sort of being plugged in with the team, and anytime they have anything they need, like if I'm not there to answer it, then we've done a good job of like instilling that culture to where someone else on the team will jump in and help that person underneath them and stuff. And so
right.
I don't know if that directly answers your question, but yeah.
That's cool. So naturally you wake up at 7 a.m. every day?
Yeah, like today I did, and I think I went to bed at like 2 o'clock, which isn't the norm. I usually try to get to bed at like 9:30, 10, because that's just the natural cycle there.
Yeah.
But I think it's just at this point, so like in my nature of just like I can't help it. My actual natural cycle is to wake up around that time, sometimes earlier, sometimes a little bit later, but that's kind of the standard.
Did you study like your chronotype and when your optimal work time is and sleep time and all that stuff to kind of figure that out, or you just kind of listen to your body and let it just happen naturally?
I listen to, just by nature of what I do on a day-to-day of being in the podcast world, I listen to a shit ton of podcasts.
Yeah.
And like I'm super into all that world and stuff, but I actually, I don't think I've ever sat down and really like put pen to paper, but if I were to, just based off like the general gist of it, I think I'm more of a morning person, and I think I get my best work done between, like, just call it 8 a.m. through 12 p.m. But it varies from day to day, Like if I get a nap in, which I'm a huge proponent of naps.
Me too.
Then I crush the afternoon, but it's not always like that. I also want to say that like there are days where it's like 2 p.m. and I haven't gotten it's just not a productive day
It's
by
not
any
happening
means.
for you
So
that day,
yeah, like, I mean, that comes with it too. So that's why the self-care piece is so key, in my opinion, is because that can lead you down a kind of like dark spiral if you do start getting too, I don't know, myopically focused on like the results and not just being like, okay, well, this is what I actually did today.
Yeah. No, I feel that. I feel that for sure, because what I've been trying to do lately, and I'd be interested to get your take on it, is almost limit the number of hours that I can spend working, and make sure that I'm very directed and focused in that time. So like, not saying, okay, I'm gonna work 15 hours a day, and just like letting that work fill that time, but instead being like, okay, I'm gonna be comfortable working 10 hours a day, but I know that I'm gonna get this, and that done, and these are like my main goals, and like being really focused on that. How has your, maybe it's workflow, or maybe it's like your prioritization or something, like how has that evolved for you over time?
God, it's constantly a struggle that I deal with, actually, because you know, I'm always sort of trying to like figure out that like 1% to get slightly better and stuff, and then what that means is me like completely sort of shifting my systems and always sort of looking for that better thing. And ultimately, I think like, I mean, I'm still in this kind of like flux period of figuring out like my best workflow. So I can't like give you a firm answer, but yeah, it's tough to say, because a lot of what our day-to-day entails, like, I would love to be able to wake up and be like, okay, I'm writing an article or 2 articles today, and like that's my primary focus. But with the nature of working like in an agency, is stuff just kind of pops up all the time, and you really have to like be ready to jump on an email at any given notice. You have to like be ready to jump on an email at any given notice. But that's kind of, I guess, where it goes back to like, all right, well, how can we retool this to where that isn't always going to be the case, or like what systems can you put in place to where you can do your best work, or everyone does their best work on the team, because ultimately I realize right now that it's just not sustainable, and it's not a great way to optimize my workflow. So yeah, right now it's in flux. I'm gonna be honest. Well, hey, I mean, that's what this is all about. It's being real about it. Now, question for you. Big surprise there. I have another question. Let's talk about your business model and the evolution of that, because one of the things that I've noticed is that over the 4.5, 5 years that I've been in business, I've been an entrepreneur, my business model has changed, and it's changed a lot. So I'm interested to know, like, where did y'all really start from as far as a business model perspective, and then how have you evolved over time? Yeah, so Eric, my co-founder, he initially started this. He was working with, he was doing a little bit of freelance work and stuff for Tim Ferriss and cool. Jason Calacanis and some podcasters, and he noticed that, you know, people were specifically like going on podcasts and kind of like doing this sort of thing that is now sort of being called a podcast tour, where, you know, the same people would kind of go on different shows. And he saw that as an opportunity of like, wow, like, you know, this is kind of an untapped market here, and it seems to be paying off pretty well. If you look at, you know, there's some of these people who've done thousands of podcast interviews at this point. One that just jumps off the top of my head right now is Russ Perry.